All right, we're back with Chat Room. I'm with my co-host John, and we are super thrilled to be talking to Richard. It says just Richard, but we know it's so much more than that. But Richard of FrankenCon, and we're so happy you can be here with us.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Michael and John, for inviting me on. It was supposed to be like a full house with Cory and Matt, but life gets in the way sometimes. So it's a good thing there's three of us because one person can usually make whatever we set up.
Yeah. Well, and now you can just, do what I do when John's gone, which is just take credit for all the good
Yeah,
things.
that's right. I mean, I did everything.
Yeah.
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 It's all
Um,
good.
but yeah, so one reason I wanted to get you on is, I only just talked about this on our show last week, but, this is a world I'm familiar with, at least as far as conventions. John is entirely uninitiated with any of this, and
Oh,
that's
No
that's
idea.
that's gonna
good.
be
No
That's
fun.
idea.
good.
He probably likes horror more though than me, to be honest. But
That's
even
good.
so, I went to FrankenCon. It was your first year last year. Oh my god, I've literally been to like 40 events. This is by far like my favorite. You all ran it so smoothly. Everybody was so nice. So right off the bat, I just want to give props to you for how
Thank.
and all of you
Yeah, yeah.
did, not just you, but to
No,
how
no, no.
amazing it was.
No, I will be with all three today. But no, we thank you for the kind words. It really was perfect. It was so perfect. It terrifies me to do another one because it was
Yeah.
like that was pretty perfect. We had a couple glitches here and there, but for the most part, you're right. Like everybody was awesome. Vendors were awesome. Celebrities were great. It's funny, John. Matt really had never been to a convention until we did Smoky Mountain Fan Fest last year in June in 2021 to promote FrankenCon. So he
Yeah.
was literally signed up to do a convention and he had never been to one.
That's
But he
funny.
comes from a wrestling background and so he put on wrestling events. So he was used to the event part. It was just the convention side of things that to get used to, which me and Cory had been going to conventions. Well, I've been my first convention was in '99, I think.
Oh
Yeah.
I think
wow.
it was the first Adventure Con in Knoxville, whenever that was. I feel like '99, 2000, somewhere around there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like Peter Mayhew and Dick DeRock and uh, yeah, Face from A Team was there. I mean, they had like, but at that time, conventions were kind of like the stars of the past in a way, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and conventions can still be that, but certainly, now celebrities are celebrities because of the conventions. So it's this weird, Felissa Rose, yes, she was in Sleepaway Camp, but I mean, I argue that she's more of a celebrity from conventions, just
Yeah.
doing conventions because
Yeah.
she's amazing. Like she's so nice, and people meet her over and over and over because she's awesome, and she always has new stuff and new projects going. So I mean, I think conventions just now are used a little differently than before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think obviously they have more presence too, be it in
Sure.
Hollywood or elsewhere. I always feel there's an episode of TV. I love a lot of like silly crime shows, so it felt like so many of them had to have one in a convention, just kind of nod to that. So like for John and many that really don't know any convention world, like San Diego Comic-Con is probably the one that like they're most familiar with. But how would you say, Richard, specifically, like a horror convention really stands apart from just kind of a generic con?
I think with the horror community in general, we have found like it's just this thing that, horror's been around forever. And it's a unique group of people that like horror movies, I think, that really and that really dive into it. You have mainstream people that like horror, and that's cool. And they're great too. But I think at the core of horror fandom is just you have this one focus, whereas like San Diego Comic-Con, there's Marvel and DC, and there's movies and comics and toys, and
Yeah.
so you don't know if the person standing next to you is going after toys or if they're here for Marvel or what. But at a horror con, you're here, everybody's there for horror, so you
Yeah.
know that the person next to you is like you, or at least, like the same thing, so you can start up a conversation. I come from wrestling too. Like, I've been a wrestling fan my whole life, and wrestling is sort of the same. Like, you go to a wrestling event, you just start talking to people because you all like wrestling. So there's just this inherent bond to a certain genre, or I mean, it could be related to football too. If you go to a Vols game, you're all there to watch the Tennessee Vols,
Yeah.
and you're probably going to start talking to the person next to you, unless
Yeah.
they're an Alabama fan or something.
Yeah. You might be dressed up crazy too,
Yeah,
face paint and all that.
yeah.
So
So I mean, I think with horror specifically, what we're seeing is just, the celebrities too are starting to embrace it. You got Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard and Neve Campbell. They made kind of headlines because they were obviously in the Scream movie, or at least Nev was. I honestly haven't seen the Scream movie, so I don't know about the others.
we won't hold that
The other
against
two are dead, but who knows in horror, But
Yeah.
they were staying late because the con was closing. Jamie Kennedy talked about this. So, the con was closing and there was still a line. And those celebrities stayed and signed to make sure everybody got an autograph. And I just don't think you get that from a lot of other fandoms.
Yeah.
I think the horror celebrities really embrace horror, and they're horror fans.
Yeah, I always think of it like I go to a lot of concerts, and I feel like the best horror conventions are like the best metal show. It's scary from the outside, but then when you get in there, the people are just like so nice. Like, I've had to move around, and have mosh pits, and people are like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, are you
Oh,
okay?"
oh
And I'm just
yeah,
like,
no,
"What?" Like, you have like
100%.
tattoos and stuff, but yeah, like
100%. I mean,
yeah,
in doing FrankenCon, I've just met people and befriended people that I wouldn't have any other way if it wasn't for horror. Just because, also, when you're older, I mean, I'm mid 40s now, so now I'm at a place where I don't meet new people. I don't like. I mean, I don't. I go to work. I come home. That's it. I don't.
yeah,
I don't go to clubs. I don't go. I don't do anything. So the horror cons are a really cool way to just make friends. And I mean, we've befriended Scarefest in Lexington, Kentucky, and they're great. I love those guys. I mean, Adrian, Brandon, Wes, all of them are awesome. We're going there next week. I can't wait. And yeah, I just think with horror, it's just a very narrow niche, that
hmm
and if you can focus in on that, you can find the right people. And I mean, I think that's what we did with our first event. um it wasn't thousands of people like other cons, but we were a first year event. And to be honest, it felt like there were thousands of people there, to
it
be
did,
honest.
yeah,
I mean, but we had a great turnout, and we just knew we wanted to do it again. Actually, at first I didn't want to do it, but
yeah.
here I am.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, when I ran cons, you had at least a week or so of just kind of like decompression after it, and then
Well,
it started to come back, and you're like, "Oh, I could do
it's funny because we were going to Cracker Barrel the next day, and me and Corey were walking next to each other. I said, "I'm never doing that again."
it."
And then by the end of Cracker Barrel, we had already picked dates.
Yeah,
By the end of the lunch at the Cracker Barrel, we picked dates, and we were like, okay, let's take a month off. We'll rest. I mean, within a week, we were already booking talent. I mean, and I think we have slowed down thinking about it a little bit, but
yeah,
it's always on the back of our mind, and there's so much to do. And like you said, everything did run really good last year. And I mean, it's kind of because we thought about it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for about
yeah,
9 months. So, this one day, because it was just one day last year, just depended on, this 9 months of just trying to make sure we had everything wrapped up and ready. And honestly, everybody, like the day of, they were like, "Are you a nervous wreck?" I was like, "Well, I mean, the ball's rolling at this point. All I
Yeah.
can do is, catch it if it falls apart, I guess." But
That's a good attitude.
the
Yeah.
day of was actually really fun for me. Probably more stressful for Matt because he was in charge of programming and stuff. And I mean, in
Yeah.
the end, I was there. You always deal with situations, so I felt like I was really good at that. And Cory is the voice of us, and he makes sure everything's running good, and making sure everybody's happy. So we all have
Yeah.
our roles, and I think without the three of us, it wouldn't work. I don't. I mean, I couldn't do it without them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just one of those things where just I know people that run cons by themselves, and I'm like, I mean, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you would do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a good team, but some days it felt like that. And I always joke that's why I went gray early.
Yeah.
So, while
No,
you
also,
all.
I had a full head of hair 2 years ago.
Yeah, I still feel like you all are like the three musketeers of like HorrorCon. So like you pick up exactly your weaknesses and strengths, and it worked out really well.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, me and Matt met each other through wrestling. I was a fan of his and his company that still runs wrestling out of the Tennessee area, and we became friends. We started podcasting, and he started this with Felissa. He randomly messaged like Felissa's agent, I think,
Hmm.
and was like, how do we get her? Not, and we didn't have anything. Like, we didn't have anything to get her to,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so the agent told us, and so we know this bar down here, Bird in the Book, and so Felissa was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." So we did an evening with Felissa Rose, and we could only fit 100 people, and we sold that out. Um,
yeah,
and that was a really fun thing. And then halfway after we sold that out, we were like, we need to do this again. And we really didn't want to do it. I mean, a convention was never really the thing to do. We were going to do just an evening with so and so, but
yeah,
it's just so hard to do that. And so then you want 2 or 3 people, and it's like, well, if you get 2 or 3 people, then you got to start. Well, we need like 10 vendors, and then it just turns into, well, I said, well, now we're just doing a convention. So
yeah,
but we did something unorthodox, really, and we did a 1 day, really, and it wasn't a toy show. It wasn't. It was a full blown convention, and most of the time, those don't really happen just in 1 day.
yeah.
But we're not conventional at all. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes, yeah, thinking outside the box can come up with great results.
yeah, I
Mhm.
mean,
And
and that's what's happened. I mean, a lot of these things happened because all three of us were involved. I mean, me and Cory wouldn't have thought of the film festival. And that was Matt's baby. And we did the film festival last year, and we're going to do it again. As far as I know, we haven't started the process yet, but as far as I know, that's happening. And but without Cory, me and Matt wouldn't have thought about Joe Bob Briggs and Darcy. Not
yeah,
anything, not anything because of. I mean, not anything bad, but me and Matt would not have thought of them. I mean,
sure.
we just wouldn't. And Cory was like, "We got to get them," and they were the first ones we signed,
Yeah.
and they're coming back for next year. So, um, and me, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty good at the vendors thing. So I think that's it's not as fun and flashy as the other stuff, but
Yeah.
it's important. And our vendors were very successful last year, as you might have heard or known.
Oh,
um,
yeah.
they were just very successful, and that makes me happy because that's what we want. We want everybody to be successful.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I definitely, and John, jump in because I promise I can get way too in the weeds with you,
Um,
Richard.
I guess can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah, fire me.
So I guess I'm not really into horror that much, but I
Mhm.
am into the movies, and I've been into the movies ever since like an early childhood kind of thing. So would you say that these events, for I guess people like me that aren't really into all the other aspects of horror, that are just like kind of, a scary Saturday night, drink a beer, kind of watch a scary movie.
Yeah.
Like, would somebody like that be able to attend these events and like enjoy it?
Oh, I mean, I think for sure. So there's a few things. So like with an event like let's just say Scarefest because it's next week. So Scarefest is like 100,000 square feet, uh, over 100 vendors. I mean, I don't know how many celebrities they have, but like their celebrities, they have Robert England. That's
Yeah.
Freddy Krueger. They have Kane Hodder. That's Jason. C.J. Graham. That's Jason. They have mainstream. All conventions probably have somebody you've heard of or a movie you've seen.
Yeah.
So even if you don't necessarily collect autographs or want to meet the celebrities,
Yeah.
so then let's take those out. So if I'm talking to you and you're like, well, I don't really want to spend $40 on somebody else's autograph. That's just not my thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. That's cool because then we have vendors. So any convention will have vendors for for its selected things. So like most horror convention, you're gonna get like horror artists that will be drawing like I mean, I don't know, like Bride of Frankenstein or skulls and stuff like that. But then you'll have horror writers, and then you'll have people that make candles that are inspired by horror movies. We have somebody that makes they're called corrupt cakes, and they make cupcakes with an alcoholic icing, I think.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so like they're there, and then you have people selling jewelry and just also we have a guy, his company name is Awesome Pillows, and he makes pillows, and they all have designs on them and stuff like that. Last year we had mask makers. So even if you don't like the celebrities, you have the vendors. So let's say you don't like the vendors or the artists or anything like that. Well, next year we're going to have a costume contest. So if you like costumes or you like taking your picture with somebody dressed up as something, which is actually much more fun than people let on. Like that's a really fun part of conventions is just taking your picture with people that are dressed up.
Yeah.
And so we have costume contests. Kids are welcome. 12 and under. Our con is free, so we're very inviting to families. I mean, nothing. At our vendor spots, there's no nudity. We don't let anything like that happen. Nothing is adult themed other than maybe some blood things, maybe some decapitated things, but
Yeah.
most of that is in like a cartoony way or not in a scary way. And in
Right.
horror conventions, it's not like people are standing around and scaring people. Like that's just not what a horror convention is.
It's really what it sounds like when you just say it one time.
Man, you say a horror convention. There's a convention in Knoxville called CreepyCon, and they're more of like a haunt.
Yeah.
A haunters convention. I've never been, but this is just what I know. Like they have like sideshow stuff, and they have actual haunted houses you can walk through and stuff like that. But that's not what FrankenCon's about. So we're more of vendors and such. And we do have short films too. So we have a film festival. So I mean, I would say if none of those things, if you don't like large crowds, if you don't like doing something, a little different, then a HorrorCon's probably not for you. But if you just want to try it out, I mean, I think Archon is a really good one to start out with, not just because I run it, but if you can find a small con, you don't want your first con to be something crazy. Like Dragon Con. My God, if somebody's first convention was Dragon Con, they would never be the same.
Yeah.
That one has
Um,
like 60,000 people, if I
At
recall, like 60 to
least,
80.
I mean, I think usually
Yeah,
they go over 100.
Yeah, I
yeah.
couldn't do
Just
that.
because they have a parade and all that,
Hey,
and
you say that, John. You getting like a UT bowl game, and all of
Yeah,
a sudden you're fine with 60,000 people.
that's
So
different. That's
yeah,
different.
yeah, yeah. But
You're
it
talking
is.
60,000 people dressed up trying to scare me. That's a different story.
But
oh
that's
no,
not. No. See, that's where I mean, if this has gotten out, like if that's what people think conventions are, we need to dial it back. Now, I will say this: we did have a group last year. They were just the Bloody Clowns. Do you remember them?
yeah,
Mike, so they were like one was Ronald McDonald and just blood like everywhere and just scary, and they would just walk around. Now they weren't like now if they saw that you were like ooh, they might go after you a little
yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
but that's just all par for the course. I
I
mean it's
yeah.
all in good fun and nothing's actually going to happen. So
So John, I always joke that my threshold is Scooby-Doo episodes are a bit too intense for me,
Yeah.
and I handled it, so you would be
oh
fine.
yeah, that's right. I forgot. You don't like it. You don't like
No,
scary stuff.
no,
Not at all.
no, no.
Yeah,
I just
like yeah. And so we do and then we have VIP stuff and panels during the day that are just much different than we do a breakdown of a scene of a movie. So we'll show a movie, have the actor from that movie um sit there and we'll talk with them and they'll tell you stories about on the day of set and other things. So
Yeah.
we did that last year with Texas Chainsaw Massacre where it was a dinner scene. So I mean if you don't like horror movies, I mean you don't I mean it, I would still say go for the vendors and stuff like that and you still get your money's worth um just because but yeah I mean, I guess it's sort of like if I went to, like a My Little Pony convention. I would go, but I don't collect My Little Pony. But
Right.
I would
yeah,
probably, but it's cool to see people. I mean, I think what is cool about horror cons and any con, any football game, anything like that, for somebody who doesn't appreciate it, if you step aside and you look and you see like just watch the people watching something they love. Like it's
Yeah.
a fascinating thing.
Yeah. I
I
know what
mean,
you
if
mean
I
by that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean like a football game. I mean,
Yeah.
on TV it goes by quick, but in real life it's a little sluggish just because you don't have the commercials to distract you or whatever. You don't. They're not. You're just seeing everything in real time. But when you're with people and when you're watching people, it doesn't feel like that. And same thing with horror. I mean, our Joe Bob Briggs and Darcy line last year was basically an hour and a half wait. Not one single person complained because most of the time, most of them were just standing there talking with people about something that they both liked.
yeah,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's the interesting thing about conventions is like these conventions, no matter what convention you go to, it's put on probably by somebody who loves it. I mean,
Yeah.
you do have the money people that are just trying to kind of milk their way in, but I think you can spot those a little bit.
yeah,
I mean, at our con, I mean, I don't know. I mean, by the end of the day, people were crying, they were hugging each other. Like, it is the craziest thing I've ever witnessed. Like, and that's why I'm a little hesitant for the second one, just because it scares me so much. Just because the first one was so special.
yeah. Well, I wanted to say too, John, something that I have felt is true, and I'm sure would be true for this, because you think one reason I love doing this interview in October is it's Halloween season,
Yeah.
and especially like with cosplay, but costume, whatever you call it,
Hmm.
everybody does that once a year, and like these events, you do that so much more often.
Yeah.
And so many people I know that are even a bit tentative, it's like the moment they put a costume on, people start taking their photos. It's like, I'm here, I've arrived.
Yeah.
No,
It's
it's
like a
true.
whole thing.
No,
So
it's
yeah,
true.
that's a great gateway too.
Yeah,
That's
for
awesome.
sure. For sure. I mean, and Bride of FrankenCon is going to be our second year. It's next year, 2023, June 9th and 10th. And I mean, it's bigger and better. We've got 2 vendor halls now. So, Mike, if you remember, it was just just the one hall. Well, now we have 2 halls, and it's in a hotel. And a hotel con is like nothing else. I mean, a hotel con just presents. So the thing with hotel cons is you want to stay at the con. So you want to stay at the hotel. So then what happens when the con closes down, the room parties start. So then you're just drinking and hanging out in somebody's room. I've done it many a times. Like, it's crazy. You think that, and I'm not going to do that. It's like, well, I mean, they'll prop the door open. People will just walk in and out and lay on the beds. And it's like, what is happening?
Oh,
but
yeah.
you just feel, I mean, everything feels, it just feels natural in the moment. And it's just, it is an experience like nothing else, really.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
I feel it's the closest I ever got to college parties, or as I'm pretty sure John's college experience was all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. I mean, I never was into the party atmosphere, but at a con, I'll go to a room party. I mean, I'll never forget. I went to Dragon Con, and I was staying with there was like 4 or 5 of us in the room, and one of the girls wanted to hook up. Like, that's what her thing was. She put her number on the outside of the door. Got a call later on.
That's awesome.
Now, that was about 15 years ago, so times have changed a little bit, but it's still one of my favorite stories. But like, So, I mean, if somebody was to tell me, well, I don't like horror at all, would I like your convention? It's like, I say give it a shot. I say give anything a shot once, because you might fall in love with something there.
Yeah.
Something I was impressed by too that I don't always see at other conventions, and I think this is relevant to us doing this show, is you all had a number of people that were vloggers, covering it and going around, because I've watched a number of videos afterward, and they could have shot that footage, realized they didn't like it, but no, I mean, that was like true enthusiasm from your show, and that's something I want us to do some too. Whether it's your event, because I'll probably be working, with my friend's jewelry booth, or like others, do more on location stuff to really get the experience you're talking about and kind of share it with our audience.
No, absolutely. There are a few videos of FrankenCon that you can go on YouTube, and it's other people that took it and did interviews with people and stuff. So that's really fun. I mean, we want to embrace everybody. Like, we want everybody to just make it their experience. If you want to come and try to interview some people, I mean, we really don't have any control. Some people come and just interview other fans. Like, that's what their show is about. Like, they'll just talk to the fans. And so that's cool. Next year we're tapping into the world a little bit, because we watched a movie as a very popular channel on YouTube, and they're actually going to be at Bride of FrankenCon, and they're going to be doing our VIP party with, I say party, our VIP experience with Felissa Rose, but anytime Felissa's involved, it's always a party. But she's doing a live commentary of Sleepaway Camp. So, John, I assume you've never seen Sleepaway Camp. Michael?
I have
Sleepaway
not.
Camp.
I haven't, but I'm intentionally aware, just because my friends was one of the lucky 100.
Do you know the ending?
Yes.
Okay, so the ending is the greatest thing of all time, and it's a brilliant ending. It's a great 80s camp movie. But we watched a movie. We'll be there with Felissa doing that, and then we've got another podcast, the Nerdy Old Men podcast. They're going to be there, and they're going to be set up, and they do live interviews with vendors and just all sorts of people.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, we're trying to, it's really tough, because you try to make something for everybody, I mean, you want to get as many people as you can, which, which is the hard part, because when you say horror, it does alienate some part of the equation. I mean, Mike, would you have came to FrankenCon if it wasn't for Angela? I mean, would you have ever? I mean, because I know you love cons, so you know what a con is. But would you ever go to a horror con without working it?
Probably, or because of Cory, because I've definitely gone to a lot of panels where genuinely, John, I am like, you know me, John, so this probably isn't surprising, but I'd be like this, or like just like have my hood down and just be like there supporting in the audience, which I feel like John's. I mean, we haven't talked about this too much, but John definitely has watched some horror. The sad part is his youth is probably why he hasn't watched Sleepaway Camp. I make 80s reference, and I'm like,
yeah.
No, I wasn't even here yet.
I mean, Sleepaway Camp is not. It's not a blockbuster either. I mean, it's very indie. I mean, most people, mainstream especially, don't know it. But I mean, even if you're a fan of like the new stuff, all this stuff being created now is just paying tribute to the stuff that was created when they were kids watching it.
Oh yeah.
So if you like some of this stuff happening now, you're gonna like some of this older stuff. You might have to do a little bit more research. I mean, do you like the Scream movies? Is that the kind of horror? Like, what's the kind of horror movie you would sit through?
I guess like the most recent one is like Insidious, movies like that.
See, those are terrifying. The horror movies I typically watch aren't necessarily scary. They might be gory or anything like that, but Insidious creeps me out. Man.
I mean, my favorite is really like thriller. So like I don't know what that. There's a movie. It's called like Keep Quiet or something, and they're like it's like a family and they're hiding in like
Quiet Place.
Quiet Place. That's what it is. Yeah. So I like. It's not really like scary. It's more like on the thriller side, kind of trying to run back. It's
definitely a horror movie. I mean, people put it more in the horror category than thriller, but that thriller and horror kind of blend together because like, and I use Silence of the Lambs. Have you ever seen Silence of the Lambs?
I have not.
So have you, Mike?
I am not.
Oh my gosh!
I'm very aware of it because the culture is everywhere. But I knew even as dated as that probably looks, that is past my threshold. I watched Quiet Place, but yeah.
But Silence of the Lambs is not a horror movie. I mean, it is a thriller. I mean, it is a horror movie, but it is a thriller. It was a mainstream thriller. It won Oscars. Like but its subject matter is terrifying.
Yeah,
about a cannibal. I mean, or thereabouts. So I mean, I guess it just depends. I mean, I think if the Quiet Place and stuff like that is your kind of thing. I mean, there's other ones out there like Happy Death Day. If you've never seen Happy Death Day, give that a shot because it's a comedy and horror, and so it's kind of like Scream in a way. I mean, I would put it in that genre kind of. But that was Blumhouse. Blumhouse did a Happy Death Day, and they did a sequel to that one. And Blumhouse really knows how to kind of make a movie a little more mainstream so that everybody will like it, or they have a bigger opportunity,
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned sequel, and I wanted to ask, so Bride of Frankenstein, that's obviously a sequel. There's so many franchises where the second one is better than the first. So if you had to rank, Empire Strikes Back, Two Towers, and Bride of FrankenCon, where do you think you're going to be?
I don't know. I mean, Empire's the best. I don't know. I don't really know. I'd say Terminator 2.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
because that one's my favorite. So,
yeah.
But I mean, with calling the convention FrankenCon, we can play with the name a little bit. So, it's kind of obvious from the get-go that we're going to do Bride of FrankenCon. If there is a third one, I think we're going to go a little left field because everybody assumes it's going to be Son of FrankenCon if we ever do one. But Son of FrankenCon, we are kind of holding for something that'll probably never happen, but we're kind of holding that name. So, so we have something special for the third year. Hopefully, I mean, and I try not to think about the third year because we haven't even hit the second year, but that was our problem with the first year. We were already thinking about the second year. And it's like, it's hard not to kind of think ahead because you have to, your just brain has to, you're always having to think of something different and something new. And just, you got to keep people interested and just, think of something that you would like to do.
Yeah.
And then you're working with all these people, vendors and celebrities, and it's like herding cats. You're like, it's an insane kind of task. But I mean, FrankenCon went off without a hitch. The main problem we had with FrankenCon was our photos, but we have a solution for Bride, so we'll be going into that, and we're really excited about that. But our photo ops, they turned out great, but there was just a few hiccups here and there. And so we'll be, we're kind of more on it this time.
Yeah, very cool. I have some non FrankenCon specific questions, but I want to make sure you are doing a great job of weaving so many answers into my questions.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But I want to make sure, like what if you had to say is like the most exciting things for this year for anybody who, whether they loved it or not last year, like if top 3, like what is it about this year?
I mean, I would lump in all the celebrities because we've gotten more. I think last year we had like 9 or 10 celebrities, and we're in the 16 realm right now.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to like single out our celebrities just because I think they're all really cool. Something last year that happened, we had Brian Brimmer, and he's from a movie called Pumpkinhead, and Brian turned out to be this amazing guy, and everybody fell in love with him.
Oh, he was the best.
He had never really done. I mean, I think I've heard that he had done it at a convention or an event, but not really. So I can't really speak on that. But I do know that day was very special for people that met him and for Brian himself, and for us just meeting Brian. He's a great person. So things like that, I think, are what separates us a little bit. But so I would say celebrities for sure. Our activities, we try to think outside the box, like I said. So our activities aren't just a Q&A panel where somebody says, where they're like, who's got a question? And then everybody's like, God, don't pick me.
Or it's the same 5 questions that you hear at
I mean, it's like what was it like playing a Nightmare on Elm Street or something like that. So and we do have Q&As, like our we'll have a Joe Bob Briggs and Darcy panel that is basically a Q&A. We did that last year for VIP. For this year, it's just it's not just VIP. It'll be for general admission as well. And but Joe Bob's people are his fans are very cool, and the questions were really good, and Joe Bob's great to listen to. Joe Bob's just fascinating to listen to his response. Like, even if it's a question, I just think Joe Bob gives a great answer every time. But we do the scene breakdowns. We have movie screenings with directors that are going to be there. So I mean, we're just offering activities that I don't think every con does. They're starting to, which is cool. But it also keeps us on our toes of trying to just keep kind of, just molding us in a different way. And then the third one, and I mean, honestly, I just, it's maybe a cop out, but it's the people, whether it's vendors or the attendees or anything, like just being there and people watching them in costumes or not in costumes, or like, oh, that's a cool shirt, because everybody's wearing a horror themed shirt or something, or loved or whatever, or people are just dressing. Like, why I love cons is I dress, because I mean, I don't get to dress stupid, or I tie a flannel around my waist. I'm not going to do that here at Walmart.
Yeah.
But I was a 90s kid, so flannels around my waist make me feel good. So my wife hates it, but I do it. I mean, because because that just being able to be yourself at conventions is really nice. So I mean, I think people, activities, and celebs are the
Sorry,
key.
I had to fix my camera.
Oh, you're good. At least you got it back. Usually, when my camera does that, I'm like, "Oh no, what happened?" And I can't ever come back. But
yeah,
there we go. Sorry, y'all.
Yeah, no.
But no, I feel so. I feel like those would be good reasons to come. I mean, and even if you don't know their names of the people, and like if I say like C.J. Graham, you're like, well, I'm not really sure who that is. Well, that's Jason. He played Jason in Part 6. So, we have a lot of people like that where it's like, oh, I'm not really sure who that is, but he played in this. So, in Archon, we have, for celebrities, we have like directors, and we have a stunt guy coming this year, which I'm really excited about. Nick Decay is his name, and he films a lot of stuff in Atlanta. So he's been in Stranger Things, and he was Eddie Munson's stunt double, not the
awesome.
not the guitar stunt double, but the actual stunt double. But John, that's interesting. Do you watch Stranger Things?
I watched the first episode and I stopped.
Of the first season?
Yeah, first season.
Did it scare you?
No, not at all.
No, Bachelor got on, and he's like, I got things to do.
That was a secret, Michael.
the first episode, I mean, I don't really feel like Stranger Things is like, I mean, it's scary. It's got some scary moments, but the fourth season is terrifying. They really amp it up. It's like Harry Potter, man. They grew with the kids, and then we got to the fourth
and
season.
You know what? That's a good example, because sometimes I'll make the joke about Scooby-Doo, and then my friends are like, but you watch this. And Stranger Things is like that. It's kind of gradually got me in there. So like I'm more used to things. So
I think we can all say, like girly movies, romance movies aren't really my bag, but I mean, I'll give something a shot. I mean, 50 First Dates is one of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, not just like, it's a great movie. There's a movie called what's it called? Safe Haven. Total girly movie. I love it. I'll sit there and watch it. Yeah, Safe Haven's
that one.
Yeah, Safe Haven's a great movie. It's Josh Duhamel and some girl from Dancing with the Stars, I think, and there's nothing guy about it, and it's a great movie. So I mean, I think we can all, if we want to, find something in a genre that we don't really care for. We can latch on to something.
Yeah. Well, speaking of movies, I know we don't have a lot more time, but I wanted to ask real fast if you could say your favorite horror film, and then one horror film you think that's been overlooked that you would recommend people check out.
I mean, I've talked about this with Matt, because I'm like, what is my favorite horror movie? Because I'm like, I don't know. And I think with any favorite thing, it can kind of change.
Yeah. Well, that's today. Your favorite today. We won't hold you to it.
But I think I usually go to Child's Play 2, which is kind of weird because it's a sequel, and most of the time that's not. But I love Child's Play 2. I mean, I have... I try to collect anything from Chucky, and 2 is my favorite. It has a great scene at the end. So I love Child's Play 2. I got to meet one of the stars last year, and she was great. And so I would probably say Child's Play 2, a horror movie that not many people know of, that they should see. Let's see. I wish my movie collection was in here. The only movie I have in here is Weekend at Bernie's 2, so I don't know if that's hard.
John probably hasn't seen it.
Yeah.
And it does have death. So
Yeah. So you've never seen Weekend at Bernie's, any of them? There's 2 of them.
I've seen both because of my age, but yeah,
No,
John,
I
have you
haven't.
seen?
Weekend at Bernie's is great. It's a comedy. It's not
I
scary,
barely
but
made the 90s, man.
their boss. So real quick, Weekend at Bernie's, their boss dies, but it's a special weekend, so they're trying to keep him alive. They're trying to make
Trying to get
other
this
people think he's still alive.
Yeah, that was somebody recounted that
Right.
plot to me recently. I was like, wow, I don't remember how much was really in that. I was just too
The
distracted
second
by
one
the
has
comedy.
the second one has voodoo in it. I mean,
Oh wow.
yeah, it's great.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of a movie because I mean I could say something, but it's like, but most of the ones I'm thinking of right now are very, very hardcore. Like, and
Yeah,
you would,
it's cool. We don't know
um,
what our audience likes. They may be
but
way more intense than us.
so a movie. I'm not going to say that. So I will say this. So if you're not disgusted by like a different kind of gore, a very methodical movie that I've only seen one time, and I urge people to see it, but it messed me up mentally. Like the idea of the movie really made me think, and that's kind of what I love about horror movies too. But Martyrs, I would say the original Martyrs, which there is an American version of Martyrs, but you would go for the foreign version, which is French, I think. But Martyrs is a really, really good movie. The American one's not bad, though. Actually, if you don't want it to be as traumatic, watch the American one.
Okay. Yeah.
And when did that movie come out?
Martyrs was probably the French one. I want to say probably like 2008, and I think the American one was about 10 years later.
Gotcha.
Very cool.
So
Well,
when is y'all's if I could ask, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Michael, one more
No,
question,
no.
man. So when is y'all's like next event? Like when's y'all's actual next, like you probably said this, but just
Yeah.
for the viewers
No,
and stuff.
absolutely. I want to get it out. I
Yep.
kind of been thinking about that. But so Bride of FrankenCon, it's not till 2023, so there's plenty of time to plan. It's June 9th and 10th. Joe Bob Briggs is actually bringing his one-man show, How Redneck Saved Hollywood, to FrankenCon. But
Yeah.
it's the night before. So it's a 2-hour show, basically and he just talks about how rednecks saved Hollywood in the 70s, and just redneck's place in history, in movie history.
And is that
so
based on a true story?
I mean, it's just so Joe Bob Briggs is basically just an all-knowing movie guy. Like he's been around forever, and he's I mean, I guess simply you could say movie reviewer, but it's just so much more than that. So I mean, it is educational in many ways, but Joe Bob's very entertaining as well. So that's a separate ticketed event. You don't even have to have a ticket to Bride of FrankenCon to attend. You just have to pay for the ticket for How Redneck Saved Hollywood. So that's on Thursday night. On Friday and Saturday is Bride of FrankenCon. We have a combo ticket that's $40. That gets you in both days for the general admission. We have VIP tickets on sale right now for $100. And what you get with VIP is just insane. You get 2 nights of programming just for VIP. You get a swag bag. You get all sorts of cool stuff with that. All this information can be found at frankencontn.com. And you can follow us on socials at FrankenConTN on Twitter, Instagram. You can follow our Facebook page as well. So I really appreciate y'all letting us promote on here.
Yeah.
We hope to see everybody, whether you're a long-term horror fan or whether you're John, which I want to see you there, John. Michael drag you down.
Yeah.
So this takes place in Knoxville, Tennessee, we should say, more accurately, Alcoa, Tennessee, but it's connected to the Knoxville airport. So it takes place on June 9th and 10th, 2023 at the Hilton Knoxville Airport, which is connected to TYS, McGee Tyson. So we have the Great Smoky Mountains about 40 minutes away. A lot of people come down, make a 5-day trip out of it. and just stay and hang out in Townsend. We have Pigeon Forge, Dollywood, just an hour away. So lots of cool stuff to do in this small town. So it'd be a great vacation for really anybody. But if you like horror, it's even better.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Well, thank you so much. I know you are carrying the weight of your co-host, but you went above
I
and
probably
beyond.
messed something up somewhere.
No. We appreciate it. We're gonna put links in the low. Put links
down there
in the comments. Below for everything. And I'll certainly see you there, and I'll try to drag John along too. Looking forward to it.
I'll be the guy in the corner crying. So
happy tears.
Yeah.
But
thank you guys. Thank you very much for letting us on.
Thank you for coming.